we saved you a seat. Welcome to Train Station at 8, a place to gather with friends and talk about music for a while, particularly video game music. This is episode 8, Overworld Overture, and tonight we're going to be discussing overworld and exploration themes in games. I'm Brian Kelly, and joining me for this episode is my brother, Stephen Kelly, editor of RPGFan and host of Rhythm Encounter. Stephen, oh shoot, your last name I don't know how to pronounce.
Stephen Meyerink. And I always introduce myself as Taylor on the boards, but Meyerink.
Awesome.
Mine's going to be even worse then.
Stephen Meyerink. I'm going to get this one. And fellow editor of RPGFan and co-host of Rhythm Encounter, Derek Heemsbergen.
Ooh, I like it. It sounds a lot more exotic with your pronunciation.
No, how do you actually pronounce
that?
Let's see
how it works out for him.
Yeah, I'll try it when I'm at school. Maybe the kids won't make fun of me anymore. It's Derek Heemsbergen, and I'm Embryon on RPGFan. And I do things.
All right, well, it's awesome to have you guys on here. I just started listening to your podcast. You guys have another video game podcast going on, right? Video game music, that is.
Yep.
We do, yes. It branched out of our standard talk podcast, Random Encounter, and now we have a separate one where we can just gush about video game music all day because that's what we're into.
Yeah, that's pretty much what we did here as well. So how long have you all been doing that?
Rhythm Encounter we've been doing since the beginning of last year, and Random Encounter we've been doing since the beginning of time.
That's
a few years for Random, but yeah, Rhythm is a newer project, obviously, like Steven said, since last year, but and we release it a little bit less often, but it's because we like to get good topics, and we always have a lot of fun with it.
Oh yeah,
that's really neat.
I discovered that podcast during your Game of the Year episodes, which was like
awesome.
This epic series, and I had a huge house to clean at the time, and so I was just walking around, running away from spiders and dusting things, while incredible RPG tune after incredible RPG tune assaulted my ears. It was the best. I'm really glad you guys put that together.
You've made all of my dreams come true.
Yeah.
I've started listening to it as well, that Game of the Year episode actually, and I have noticed you guys happen to like Final Fantasy XIV.
Oh, a little. Yeah.
That's a good assessment. You could look at anywhere on RPGFan and find that. We have a review for some aspect of that game up at any point in time, no matter when you go.
Now to review / dance in Final Fantasy XIV.
Yeah.
Well, there are 4 of those now, so we could definitely dissect that.
Yeah, 1 review per.
Yeah.
Great.
Fantastic.
All right, so we have an 8-question format here at Train Station 8, and I'm going to be a rebel here and start with question number 1.
Okay.
Brave choice.
Thank you. So, question number 1. What have you been listening to? Anything goes, not just video game music.
Who should feel that first? Steven, go.
Steven.
Okay.
Right. Oh, that's so specific. Thank you, Derek.
Oh, Steven M.
Steven
Dose.
Go. We'll just speak in tandem. So, what have I been listening to? Memoria, the Yoko Shimomura 25th anniversary Arrange album that just came out a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
I adore Yoko Shimomura, and you'll notice that if you listen to our podcast for any period of time. I don't know if I mentioned it in Music of the Year, because I may not have had an opportunity, but that's more failing on my part. But Memoria is a really great album that's kind of crazy with a lot of different sounds on it. Her last Arrange album, Dramatica, was almost all piano and orchestral type arranged stuff, and this one is a little more like there's some synth in there, and so I think it surprised a lot of people, but it has a lot of games that weren't featured in Dramatica. Like, it's got Parasite Eve arrangements, Super Mario RPG. It has a new track from Final Fantasy 15, which I love. Then the Video Game Orchestra just finally released their album. It was a recording from Live at Symphony Hall, which is a bunch of really just fantastic. They call them rockestra. Orchestra arrangements, and they are totally awesome. They just performed at PAX, and they streamed it. You can actually watch it online.
Very nice.
So that's really great. And then I could go down a list of stuff I'm listening to because it's massive, but the last thing I'll say is Transfiguration, the Journey piano album, because it's fantastic.
Oh, yeah. That's in my library now. I need to get around to that.
Yes, it's excellent. At risk of saying too much about it, the composer is fantastic, and all of the musicians who participated in the piano album are great too. So
I would have been stunned to find out that album was anything less than excellent.
Me too.
Given
Right, given the source material.
Exactly. So Derek, what have you been listening to?
Well, I made a short list, and I don't know how much to go into detail, but as I may or may not have mentioned on an episode you listened to, I am a gigantic Falcom fan.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes,
I love
they're awesome.
anything from East, Trails in the Sky, Sorcerian, Brandish, whatever. Any Falcom is good Falcom to me. So the Sen no Kiseki Super Arrange album just came out a couple weeks ago, or like a week ago. I don't know, maybe a little bit longer. But yeah, so it's got lots of cool arrangements from the most recent Kiseki game, which at the current release schedule, not that I blame Xseed, but we're like 5 or 6 years away from getting that if we ever do.
Yeah.
So I figure I'll just listen to the music now. So I've been enjoying that Arrange album. I've been on a bit of a saga kick lately. I think for our most recent episode, we just did a sci-fi episode that we haven't actually put up yet. So one of my picks was the final battle theme for T260G, because I love me some Saga Frontier. And so I've been listening to a lot of Saga lately. That's a good song, yeah. And there was just like a Rebirth to Sen Saga Arrange album that just came out. So I've been listening to that. And then as far as non-gaming stuff, I have been jamming to the Kill la Kill original soundtrack, because I've been getting into a little bit more anime lately. I used to be really into it like in high school, and it kind of faded away from me. And I'm back into it again. So Kill la Kill was an awesome show, and the soundtrack is super cool and eclectic.
So I haven't watched that, but you were saying it was good, and I meant to check it out. But the title of that show really impresses me because it's Kill la Kill, but in Japanese it's Kiru da Kiru. It's a pun. It's dressed to kill. Yep. And that's awesome.
It's clever, you linguophile. And I say that like I'm not also a Japanese major.
I'm not tapped into the anime scene at all, really. I mean, I've only seen a handful in my life, but I keep hearing that one come up over and over again.
Yeah, it's like kooky and self-aware. It's like a subversion of kind of like the magical girl genre. They do a really good job of knowing when to play it straight and when to be ridiculous, which is almost always the ridiculousness. Yeah. But yeah, it's got some surprisingly cool music. And then aside from that, I'll do two more. I really, really like Genki Rockets. They're probably my favorite. If you want to say band, I'll say band. I don't know if you're familiar with them. They did music for Child of Eden. So if you ever played Child of Eden, like all the music in that game is Genki Rockets.
Yeah.
And so the singer, the girl, her name is Rachel Rhodes, but she recently set out on like a solo career under the name Yasuda Ray. So she's put out a couple singles over the past year, and her most recent one is called Brand New Day. It's kind of poppy, but I enjoy it. I love her voice. So I've been jamming to her. And finally, because I can never stop talking about music. Anamanaguchi. I'm a huge Anamanaguchi fan, and their album from last year, Endless Fantasy, is still on my playlist, and I listen to it all the time. And my favorite song from that album, Prom Night, just got a 2014 remix, so I danced to that a lot.
All right, thumbs up for that. I love their music. It's good stuff.
I remember I hadn't heard of Anamanaguchi ever before, and I started playing that Scott Pilgrim game.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that sounds just like fantastic.
Why is this music so good? What the heck? This game isn't that good.
I could.
Oh no!
I like the game a lot, actually.
I don't dislike the game, but the music overshadowed it. I think.
I would probably agree with that.
Oh yeah, I would agree with that at least. That Another Winter is one of those songs I could just listen to forever.
Yeah, that was the first one actually, and I think I had kind of heard of Anamanaguchi before. I remember like a song or two from here and there, but yeah, Scott Pilgrim was actually what really got me into them, and I was like, holy crap, I need to buy this album.
Yeah.
So, yep.
I just remember I got into them, and my fondest memory listening to Anamanaguchi is when I was living in Japan. I remember riding a train one day when it was like super hot out, and there were like 10 billion people on the train. I just remember I had Mermaid playing on repeat for like 2 hours while I was sweating to death on a train full of people.
That sounds kind of bad, actually.
It does sound like a pretty bad memory, honestly.
No, it's a great memory because that song is awesome.
Music is transformative, I guess.
Yeah, that's what's up.
Yeah.
Somehow makes that a good memory. Steven. Oh, sorry. Steven, my brother. Which is kind of what I want to call you all the time anyway.
Well, Brian, my brother, I have been listening to...
I sound like Liquid. My brother!
My brother! I've been listening to some video game music.
Very good.
But not as much as usual. Actually, I haven't had that much music time these days.
Yeah, same here.
But I have recently driven myself in the car by myself for the first time in like 2 weeks because I broke my foot and have not been out and about.
Ouch.
Yeah, it was super no fun. But the joy of being able to take off in a car, a place where you do not particularly need functioning legs, was made so much better by the Sonic Generation soundtrack, which is the best soundtrack ever.
Oh,
I never get tired of it.
Stephen M. is a Sonic guy.
Yeah! Yes!
I lied. I'm always actually listening to that soundtrack. I have it in my car, on my phone to listen to in my car, and it's on the playlist I use at the gym, so I guess I'm technically also always listening to that.
That is a beautiful thing.
So I'm curious, with a lot of people who like Sonic music, there's like a divide between classic Sonic music and more recent Sonic music. Do you enjoy also the soundtracks from Sonic Adventure and onward, Sonic Rush and all that, or are you mostly just into the Genesis era?
And he's not addressing this to me because I am well known to like all Sonic music.
Oh, right. I was asking you, Stephen M.
Yeah, I like it all.
Awesome.
I love the classic stuff because it's what I grew up with, especially Sonic 3, totally Michael Jackson, the credits theme and everything in that game.
Yes.
But particularly the terrible Sonic 2006 just has amazing music, which is such a shame. And I love the work on Sonic Rush 1 and 2. Hideki Naganuma and I think it's Teruhiku Nakagawa. I can't remember his exact last name, but they're both fantastic. They did the Jet Set Radio soundtrack, and then just all of the Sonic has a great musical legacy. That's why they have that Sonic Boom concert every year, which was in St. Louis last year, and I went to it.
Oh, really? That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm a big Sonic fan. It puzzles Derek to death, but.
Oh, we're the same way. We puzzle pretty much every guest and every co-host we have on podcasts by sticking out for Sonic.
In fact, I think you're the first person on this podcast, or possibly in life, who has not given us a weird / dirty look.
In life.
So I'm not going to say every Sonic game has been great or had good ideas, but the music is fantastic.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, even when a game bombs, you can at least get a good soundtrack out of it.
Yeah.
So it's definitely fun in that, right? And Sonic Generations is such a fun soundtrack because it celebrates all of its legacy.
I agree.
Yeah. It takes some of the very best and then, gives each song like 2 remixes, and there's so much life and excitement to that. Yeah. Do not get tired of it.
Cool. Skill Shop theme is really great.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? You wouldn't. Isn't that the one from
It's the
Sonic? Was it 2 or 3?
It's the competition theme from Sonic 2.
2, right? Exactly. Yep.
It's awesome.
Well, I officially have Can't Hold On Much Longer stuck in my head. I don't know the title of the song, but
Open Your Heart?
Yeah, Open Your Heart. There we go.
That song blew my mind when I first saw that playing on a Dreamcast at like a Costco before I had ever
Oh, same with me.
Somehow I missed that Dreamcast had come out, so like I just walked by. I'm like, what?
The exact same thing happened to me, except it was Emerald Coast. And
yeah.
Oh, right.
It was half the music and half the were they dolphins or were they killer whales
dolphins
jumping out? Yeah,
I mean, they were both.
Dolphins at the end jumping and that.
Yeah. The Sonic Adventure had some really special music to it, especially the 2 songs you mentioned, Emerald Coast and Open Your Heart.
And most notably, Knuckles' theme song.
Unlike Sonic, I don't chuckle.
Is a work of art.
Yes. Well,
his levels weren't, but his music was pretty cool.
Song's funny.
Yep.
Anyway, so there's been Sonic
else?
Generations, and I guess thematically, I've been listening to Jet Set Radio music as well.
Oh, well done.
Yes, because I recently picked up that soundtrack. For some reason, I have not owned it until now, and have been jamming in the car with that as well.
That is the correct choice.
Yeah, it is.
I agree.
Yeah, it's...
You need to get your Sneak Man on.
Yes, always get your Sneak Man on. It's one of those soundtracks that I always forget is quite that good until I listen to it again.
Place your bets, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes. And I should get the future soundtrack too, because that's just as good. So
yeah, those soundtracks introduced me to a lot of those recurring, like those samples that you hear in a lot of songs. I hadn't heard a lot of them before I even played those games because I was like young. I was probably a preteen when it came out. So whenever I'd hear that stuff on the radio, I'd be like, "Oh my god, they took that from Jet Set Radio." Yeah, no, that wasn't. It was the other way. But
did you do that with Guitar Hero?
No.
Good.
Not as much.
So I was going to ask you something, Stephen. Oh yes, I was going to ask you, have you been listening to anything else?
I mean, it's just been like, other than that, just everything on shuffle.
Yeah.
So I can't really remember, but I'm sure.
No, I want song title by song title. Please, come prepared. Jeez.
There was an OC remix song of a Castlevania song.
That does not narrow it down.
I can't remember anything else.
All right. So, like you, Stephen, I haven't been listening to a lot lately because we've had a friend in town and I've been social or whatever and not constantly listening to music. But I have been listening to the Sonic Generation soundtrack because
hooray!
That is constant. I've also been listening to the music playing on Rhythm Encounter.
Ooh, wow, thank you.
And that's been introducing me to some cool new stuff. There's something in particular you played that I really wanted to look up. Oh, it was the Penny Arcade Final Boss.
Yes. Yeah, the Hyperduck Soundworks, yeah.
When I heard Hyperduck did it, when I heard they'd done it, I really wanted to check out the soundtracks because I had never played the game or heard the music from it. So that made me really interested.
Yeah, well worth playing 3 and 4, or listening to 3 and 4. They did both the soundtracks, and they're both really good.
Listening. That's the key.
Yeah, I would not go so as far as to say that I like those particular games, but the music is fantastic.
Awesome.
So
I will definitely give those a listen. And finally, I've been listening for non-video game music to some different albums by Joe Satriani, who is a great guitarist. And I always like to listen to his stuff.
I know that much.
Yeah, that's about like the baseline knowledge for him. He's good at guitar.
Nifty.
Exactly. So, going on to question number 2, where we move on to our actual topic of this week. What makes an effective exploration theme in games?
Yeah.
Shall I field this first?
Yeah,
Derek gets to go first.
Okay. So, I like exploration music that does a lot of things. I like music that moves at a good clip. Some kind of, usually just like a consistent, a good beat, good BPM. And I really, really like exploration music that provides a sense of wonder, gives you that kind of like, I'm setting out on an adventure kind of feeling. The kind of music that's evocative of like, you can see the sunset in the distance, or like, if it's the middle of the day, there's those billowing clouds far away. Basically, anything that kind of gives you like a good mental image of looking away to like far in the distance in terms of like an adventure and or the actual scenery. So I really love dynamic themes also that change based on location. I bet Steven was going to say...
Skies of Arcadia.
Damn you! So Skies of Arcadia, I think it's really cool when music is... When they have the same melody, but they actually change up the instrumentation based on either your location or like how far you are in the story. I really like that a lot. And yeah, so I basically like things that are atmospheric and give you a good like, I don't know, I like stuff that stirs your imagination. It doesn't necessarily have to be any particular instrument or anything like that. Just something that really gets you being like, wow, this world is so vast, or, you know, I can't wait to explore it.
And that's a great point. I think if it can capture your imagination and at least make you think for a second that there's something wonderful around the corner or over the horizon, then you're going to want to play longer and go into the next cave and see what that village is. And a big part of it, you know, is obviously going to be your world design. But the music is so closely tied to that. It's the thing that's tapping into your, right into your emotions and right into that part of your brain that says, I'm either going to keep playing or get tired and stop. It's very powerful. And on that note, I think it has to be loopable. Like, no matter how good the song is, if it feels like, if the melody is too strong and is just an earworm after a while, then it's going to get grating, right? It's like, it's a very fine line between being memorable and obnoxious.
Right. And if there's something that has, like a lot of build up and then climaxes at one point and then it goes to completely nothing before starting over at the beginning again, that can kind of take you out of it as well, I think.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
What do you think, other Steven?
I like anything that is heartbeat from Persona 4. I think that's what makes it great. I think that's what makes a great exploration theme. Not necessarily exploration. Joking aside, there are a couple different styles of exploration track that I really like, and that is one. We played that one on Rhythm Encounter way back and when we did our world map. We did our world map episode, and I love that song because it's so unconventional. But it suits the environment in Persona 4 so well, because that is such a, like, you know, these kids in high school exploring and like becoming friends, and that whole thing, it fits super well.
So I have played 3, but not 4. Is that like the song that plays around a school, or is there more of an overworld in 4?
So it plays when you're like out and about in town. on like sunny days. And they use that elsewhere too. And then, I really like, for me, I tend to like a little bit of drama in my tracks. There's that running joke that I hate whimsy. I don't necessarily hate all whimsy, but I like really dramatic exploration tracks. I like the final world map song from Golden Sun: The Lost Age when you get your whole team together. I like On the Banks of a Dream from Chrono Cross, the Otherworld exploration song. Yeah, and of course the Final Fantasy IX theme, because that's kind of runs in the other direction. It's not dramatic, but it's really nostalgic, and sort of like Derek said, it sort of suggests to you that there is this whole world out there to explore. But it also calls back to that whole FF9 thing of having a nostalgia for what has come in the past. And they do that with the sort of distorted samples, and it really captures the feel of that game for me. So my answer is lots of stuff is good for lots of reasons, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Right. Another interesting question. I think in JRPGs, it's pretty clear what is an exploration theme compared to a battle theme. But in other games, it's a little more nuanced. Like, what do you think makes something an exploration theme in a game?
I mean...
oh, sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, it's always going to be hard to nail down, a 100% for certain definition. But I sort of feel that, obviously, if it's... I guess I sort of view it as, if you got your big field area, if there's a certain song or a certain set of songs that plays as you explore somewhere, whether it's the top-down map of a JRPG, or if it's in Elder Scrolls, just the whole world, basically.
Right.
As long as you feel like you're exploring, maybe it's a hub of some sort, that's the best definition I can come up with.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, to me, it's like a song that accompanies, kind of by its own definition, exploring new areas rather than, going into a dungeon, which feels very closed in, or being in a town, which of course is in its own way very closed in, or being in a battle. But the idea of you going out and embarking on new adventures in new areas is kind of when exploration theme would play. And JRPGs do a great job of literally breaking this up, like into a world map.
Yeah.
But like you said, some games like Elder Scrolls are a little more subtle with it, but it's still there.
I think a good example is look at the difference between the town themes in Zelda and the dungeon themes and the Overworld theme. They all have a very different vibe.
Yep.
But you like, look at Link to the Past. When you go into the dungeon and you have that very brief loop, but it's very, very foreboding, you know what you got, versus the adventurous Overworld theme and then the peaceful town theme.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a perfect textbook example.
Yep. Leave it to Zelda to be perfect.
Yes. Do we have to get into an argument about whether Zelda is an RPG now?
Yep, that's I scheduled 10 minutes for this.
Oh, I'm out. I'm quitting the podcast.
There are no stats. It's not an RPG. You need to level up.
I don't want to ever hear that.
We've had that argument at RPGFan a lot, just about whether or not we should cover it. It's been a really long-standing exception, just because, like you said,
it's grandfathered in.
Yeah, it's just always been something we've covered, and so we didn't cover Okami, and some people were kind of up in arms about that because they were like, "Well, it's the same thing," but which is true. It's just Zelda.
And then we did cover 3D Dot Game Heroes, which is literally Zelda. But yeah, it's a little bit of a woolly area. I would personally say it's not an RPG.
I would probably agree. Actually,
game.
I think it's very, very good at tricking people into thinking it's an RPG. It feels like one and it looks like one. And so a lot of people just say RPG. So
I think
people see progression and then they think, RPG.
Yeah, you got a new sword. It's an RPG.
I mean, it would really go back to then questioning what makes an RPG, I think is what you have to define first. And that's so many different things to different people.
Yeah, oh man.
Yeah,
that's why game genres are always hard.
I wrote an article about that once, and it was my most popular article I've ever written, and it was like the first I actually got published on the internet, and it was mostly popular just because people would pick it up on message boards and tear it apart and call me an idiot for saying things were RPGs when they weren't, so I don't want to talk about this anymore. Bad memories.
Let's move past.
Exactly. Alright, so we'll go ahead here to question number 3.
Okay.
What are your most memorable exploration themes?
I started furiously writing answers until I finally forced myself to cut off. So
okay. Well, why don't you go ahead and put a few of these down because they're just going to be mine, and I might as well,
this one
have all my ideas stolen. Okay.
No, I got one unique from you.
Oh, Bravely Default?
Yeah, how did you guess that?
Because that's like the one game we haven't both played.
I guess you're right.
I want to listen
example,
to this now.
man, I can't get enough of that overworld thing. Going back to feeling this optimistic surge of exploration, that song has that feeling in spades. Like, I highly recommend, if you have not played this game before, listen to the song. You'll probably want to play the game because it's such an excellent job at slowly gearing up and getting you're just setting out on the adventure because you're taking your first steps, and then eventually it launches into this beautiful soaring crescendo.
Is this the song? I just pasted in the Skype thing.
That you're just, obviously I'll probably either play it in the episode or have it in the show notes, but let's see.
I'm curious to listen to it myself because I haven't before.
Bam. Well, that loads. I assume you guys have checked out Bravely Default?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's actually it. I actually reviewed the soundtrack when it first came out in Japan and said very big things about it. But yeah, I actually really like that song too, because that follows Derek and I's thing of dynamism. When it gets to be day and night, the track changes a little bit in the game.
Yep.
Yes, Brian, that is the song.
It's super good. What you said about it is true.
It's one of those songs where within minutes I was whistling along with it without any problem. Like it just has one of those tunes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the strong melody is something that can be a lot of fun in an overworld theme.
Oh yeah, and that's what it has, a strong melody. So that was memorable purely for that.
Well, cool. What else do you got on there?
Well, if you want another one for sort of a different reason, it would be Morrowind. And I'm sure that's on your list. Right?
Morrowind?
Yeah.
On my list? What? You think I like Morrowind? That's ridiculous.
It's just an assumption.
It's only the first thing I wrote down.
Okay, just checking.
Particularly exploration themes.
Yes, exploration themes, 100%.
Yeah, the first one I put down is the road most traveled, which to me is really an adventurous song in Morrowind.
Yeah, I just put down all of them.
Yeah, I mean, that too.
And here's the thing, here's the reason I wanted to bring that up right now, is because
it's Morrowind?
Because it's Morrowind. But also because I feel like it's a very, it's kind of the opposite from Bravely Default, where that game has this one strong melody that plays over and over again. Morrowind's much more subtle. No matter where you go, unless you're in combat, it's going to keep playing these handful of songs. And they're more subtle, they're quieter, they don't get stuck in your head as easily. But as you play the game, or at least as I played the game, for hours upon hours upon hours, they did not wear on me. They did not get tiring. And to this day, I still listen to them and try to deconstruct them and figure out what it is about those songs that do not get old under any circumstance. And I'm not sure what it is, but it's very special.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the one interesting thing about Morrowind soundtrack is the theme song of the whole game is kind of an exploration theme.
Yeah, an excellent one too.
Right.
I really like the work in Morrowind, Skyrim, and Oblivion for exploration themes. I think they work really fantastically in the game. And I don't want to break into that later question too soon, but I think there's a marked difference between the way a lot of Western games and the way a lot of Japanese games handle exploration themes.
Absolutely.
And just not to get into that now, but I think outside of the game, the Elder Scrolls tracks are a little bit less effective for me because they're still gorgeous, but like without the world to attach themselves to, I'm sort of left like, oh, which one is this? Oh, I can't remember. Like they all sort of blend together for me.
That makes total sense, and yeah, we will be touching on that later, but I think it comes a little from how it's more focused on heightening the atmosphere of the world rather than trying to elicit a specific emotion. I think...
That's true.
Yeah.
Especially
I think it's more tied to the subtleties of what you're seeing at the time.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that what happens when I listen to Morrowind music now is because I played that game so much. Listening to that music transports me to very specific places in that world. Like I remember being in that house. I remember being in that basement with that orc, and a ton of other very specific sights from the world of Morrowind that just pop right back into my head once those melodies start back up.
Right, and that makes sense. If you don't already have the connection to the worlds, that style of music can easily run together.
Yeah, that's
unlike the more melody-centric stuff you might find in the JRPGs.
Yeah.
Stand on their own a little easier.
So, Brian, why don't you give a couple from you? What do you have?
All right, because they're just going to be on your list.
Yeah.
All right, like a trio of Zelda games have really stood out for me, which was Wind Waker's, Twilight Princesses, and Ocarina of Times.
Those are all extremely good choices. Elaborate.
Yeah.
Okay.
The ocean theme in Wind Waker would have been on my list had you not just mentioned it. I'm assuming you meant the ocean theme.
Yes, absolutely. The ocean theme in Wind Waker. I mean, what would you say makes it special to you, Stephen?
The ocean theme?
Oh, why did I say Stephen? Stephen, my brother.
Stephen, me?
Yeah.
Stephen, me. Okay.
Stephen, you.
Stephen, me. Are we talking about the ocean theme?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, here, I've already got my answer prepared for that.
Mm-hmm.
It's the fact that song is soaring and sounds like a ship sailing to me.
Right.
It sounds like a sea breeze. It's so open, so expansive, and so just plain
Well, I think
lovely.
even just how the melody goes with the do-do-do-do-do,
Right,
it sounds like a rolling wave. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and
Very smoothly going
And
up
yet-
and down.
really fits into that mythos of Zelda. It feels like Zelda music. It feels like it's building off of Ocarina of Time and the older Zelda games too.
Yep.
Genius.
Absolutely.
Genius work.
And Ocarina of Time for me is like the quintessential exploration song. It's upbeat. It makes you want to see what's around that next corner. It has a memorable melody, but it also has quieter moments. And it's just, it really like defines, if I was to say, hey, what is an exploration theme, I'd probably point to that one.
That's actually a really good point. It also sounds like a complete journey. It has, it's like if you listen to the arrangements that, like the format it comes in, like on the official soundtrack, it will play through the beginning where you're off on your adventure, and then danger will come with the battle, but then it will calm down and sunset. Like it's just like that game. You go out there and the world changes around you, and you're like, man, I just went on an adventure.
Yeah, talking about the, dynamic songs, how Zelda songs have the little morning melody that comes up before the sun.
Yeah.
Amazing transition into the music.
What
Instead of just
a
coming out of
beautiful,
nowhere.
small touch that was. That was so important.
Absolutely. And finally, Twilight Princess, I didn't love that song when I first encountered it in the game. And I still don't think its melody is up there with Wind Waker or Ocarina as being like one of the true classics of the series. But that game, for me, I got so engrossed in playing like straight through, even more than Wind Waker or Ocarina of Time, that it became the song of now I get to see something new. And it just embodied exploration so much for me going through that game that it became really memorable. It's the first Zelda game I kind of marathoned like that.
The song that does kind of put it in the legendary status for me is when the vocals come in with that chorus.
Yeah, and how it changes from when you're running to when you're standing around to when you're getting on your horse. Like, talking about a dynamic song, that one really, really goes to new lengths.
Very true, yeah. I actually was kind of disappointed by the nighttime music in Twilight Princess.
Yeah.
It fit the slow hours of midnight, but I don't know, it just didn't.
Sometimes no music is best for night.
Yeah, I think...
Yeah, I think it definitely depends on the game. There's I linked you guys to it, but there's this 4-disc album, Zelda Reorchestrated. It's Twilight Symphony, and it's a full orchestration of the complete Twilight Princess soundtrack, and that's actually what introduced me to that game soundtrack, because I played it
really
very briefly. I'm not a huge 3D Zelda fan. I like the 2D ones more. I've only ever beaten Skyward Sword, and that's ironic because it's one of my least favorite 3D Zeldas.
That is not a great one comparatively, in my opinion. But
it has some great dungeon designs, but I don't want to get us too much off topic. But the Zelda Reorchestrated music really brings to mind the strength of that series, because since they've never used live instruments until I think it might even be A Link Between Worlds, they've never used live instrumentation. They
did it for the Overworld theme in Skyward Sword, but that was pretty much the only song in that game.
Okay, and that was a great song too.
Yep.
But Twilight Princess is one of the first times I think I've really said the lack of real instruments is hurting this soundtrack. I don't normally feel that way because I love the sound of synthetic instruments, especially in Super Nintendo games. But Twilight Princess's score seems to be like it was written for an orchestra. So by not actually having one in the game, I think that actually hurt the music. Which is a shame because I think Twilight Princess has one of the better Zelda soundtrack period. I mean, at least for me, I remember a lot of the tracks from that game. Having not even beaten it, I still find them really engaging.
Yeah, I mean, if you want a Zelda game that goes for a little more grandeur and a little less whimsy, Twilight Princess really does that. Yeah. So it would fit into what you said you like.
There you go.
And I actually brought up this exact point with Kevin Van Ord on our orchestral episode, where we were talking about games that were hurt from a lack of orchestra. I think that was the topic, at least.
Yep.
And Twilight Princess definitely got brought up, which makes me so super thankful for Twilight Symphony, which is beautiful in every way.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. So let's see, what else do I got here on my list? Oh yeah, I don't play many Final Fantasy games, unfortunately. I just haven't been able to get into the series, and it's even harder to finish them. But an overworld theme that has always stuck out to me was the one in Final Fantasy VI.
Check.
Yep. Am I right?
Yep.
Is that it?
Yeah, exactly. Yep, because it... Go ahead, Stephen M.
No, that's all I got. I'm just humming.
I said Stephen M.
Oh, Stephen M. Dang it!
Go ahead.
That one's actually the character Terra's theme from the game. It's like her theme song and the world map song for the first half of the game. That's actually another one we played in our world map episode, because that one is that's a classic. That song has been arranged a million times, and it's such a good song that captures the sort of mystique of that world. At least that's how I would describe it.
I absolutely agree. Because like the world, it isn't just whimsy and sense of adventure. It also has this sense of mystery and grandeur to it that I don't think is in a lot of overworld themes that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, that's actually something I meant to bring up when we were talking about what makes an essential overworld theme. It is that sense of mystery. If you don't necessarily have excitement or adventure, you can also bring in something that just makes you wonder. Just wonder, what could this world have in store? Like, it's kind of this tingly feeling that I really appreciate when games can nail.
Mm-hmm. I thought
it's not an RPG, but Metroid Prime does that, I feel.
And another one. Yeah. Oh man, yes, Metroid Prime. I didn't think about that one. Another one I had on my list that I think kind of has that sense of atmosphere or mystery is from World of Warcraft, actually, which is the Dune Moreau song, which plays around like the snowy mountains in the Dwarven lands, and that is a very good exploration theme because it really doesn't get in the way of what you're doing, and it just adds to the sense of loneliness to those mountains.
Yes.
I had to look up that song right when you mentioned it, but I'm listening to it in the background right now, and I played Warcraft to level 30 like 50,000 times. And I do remember liking this track a lot. Yeah, not least of which because I love snowy stuff, but
yeah, exactly. The ice level always is the best song, so
yeah, it's the law of the land. You look at Sonic 3, you look at Metroid Prime. Mm-hmm. That's how it works.
Look at Final Fantasy 12.
Sonic 3D Blast.
Yeah.
An interesting choice.
Exactly right, though.
Yeah. Exactly. So I've only got a couple more here. Stephen, what did you have? Stephen, my brother. Dang it.
We're gonna, nail this communication thing at the very end.
Yeah, and then the episode's gonna be over. We'll need a part 2. All right. So Stephen, my brother, what were your others on the
list? I've only got one more that you didn't bring up.
Okay.
And that's Dragon Quest VIII.
That's on my list.
Ah!
That would be on Derek's list too, and I can speak for him. Okay. We've played that track too, and I am not a Dragon Quest fan, but I really do like that song. That captures everything about capturing the essence of adventure is that song.
Absolutely.
I remember listening to it and thinking, all right, this is immediately going up with Twilight Princess. And in that sort of, it has this one specific part of the song that soars so high and I just want to stop and listen to it every time. And I was caught off guard. I think we talked about this on the podcast before. But Brian and I did not know that game would have that fully orchestrated score when we got into it at all.
It didn't originally, right?
Well, yeah, what's interesting about that game, the Japanese version had a synthesized version of the score, and then for every Dragon Quest, I was going to say Koji Kondo, the composer, for every score, the composer does an orchestral version, like a symphonic arrangement. And in the case of 8, they actually put that into the soundtrack of the game in the American version. So the version that you've heard, if you've only played the American version of the game, is the really awesome symphonic version.
Mm-hmm. And it was almost to the point of feeling out of place in that very cartoony, low-key world, you could say. I didn't expect to hear live instruments, and it made a lot of sense. It was supposed to originally be MIDI, but I was very, very glad that we got that version. Oh my gosh, it's so good.
It really was. It was one of the things that like made the game appreciably better because it was there.
Yeah. It like you go into the cathedral and it's like, wait, don't talk to that NPC. We've got to respect this song, let it loop a couple of times, then we can continue with the story.
Exactly. All right. So that only leaves the last one on my list, which is I don't even know how you pronounce it, but it's like Gower Fields from Xenoblade Chronicles.
Gower Plains. Not to keep saying this, but we played that one too. We clearly have similar,
you guys have surprisingly good taste.
Oh yes,
we clearly have similar taste here. I don't want to steal your comments on it though, so by all means.
No, go ahead.
It's awesome.
You stole my comments.
Yeah, I figured, but yeah, I haven't beaten Xenoblade. I'm just finishing a graduate degree, and so I didn't really have a whole lot of time to get through some of those mega lengthy RPGs. Persona 4 took me like 5 months, but so that's on my to-do list to finish. But the music in Xenoblade is fantastic. It's by a group, Ace Plus, and Yoko Shimomura. And going into it being the Shimomura fan I thought I would, love that one the most, love her tracks the most. And interestingly, I actually liked the Ace Plus tracks the most. I think there was another composer, Manami Kiyota. But the Gower Plains track is just, it like a lot of the other tracks we've talked about, it has this sort of sense of forward motion that pushes you outwards and has you like really excited to be running around those fields, getting into fights and sort of exploring the Bionis. It's great.
That is what I was going to say, is just that sense of momentum and sense of excitement it nails. And yeah, I hadn't realized that it was that split between Ace Plus and the composer, but yeah, the other memorable song from that game for me, You Will Know Our Names, was also done by Ace Plus, and that was like the quintessential exciting battle theme for me.
Oh yeah, that one was great.
Yeah, we're probably going to do a battle theme RPG episode in the future, I think.
Yeah, we are planning one of those.
Yeah, because there's just too much stuff that I'm dying to talk about, but...
Yeah, you could talk quite extensively about those. We come up with topic ideas for Rhythm Encounter, and sort of like, we have like millions of topics we want to do, and then we sort of, whenever we get close to time to record, we pick one, but we sort of keep a running list of tracks we want to have. So, like, we have battle themes is one we've been sort of putting off. We've done boss themes, but we've been putting off final boss themes and battle themes just because there's such easy topics to come up with 50 episodes worth of material for.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, the list I have of tracks for that I would want to use just keeps getting longer and longer. And as more games keep coming out, I'm like, well, we're never going to get all these in.
Do you ever do, like, multi-part episodes for a given topic?
So that's the theory. We actually just switched. We have an episode coming out probably this week on sci-fi RPG tunes.
Mm-hmm.
And just to a format that's like half the length. We were getting up to upwards of almost 3 hours in some of our episodes, and so it was not a problem, like, for me, because I enjoy doing it, but it was also like, it would take a lot longer to edit that. We'd have to set aside 5 hours to record, that sort of thing. So we're switching to a slightly shorter format where each person brings 4 tracks and that's it. So they're getting down to like an hour and a half, which is great. So the theory, roundabout way, but multiple part topics were something we wanted to do. Like, we would do world map themes and then come back to it in a few months, and with the length we had before, that wasn't really going to happen, because it's like, do we want to dedicate another 4-hour episode to something that we've already done? Whereas now with the shorter format, it's like, yeah, we did sci-fi, there's a lot left, so, in a couple of months we'll go back and do sci-fi part 2.
That's a great point, because we are already running into issues where we'll come up with an episode theme that is technically different than something we've done in the week previous, but a lot of the nuances line up to something we've already talked about extensively.
Mm-hmm.
And so if they were to be these long epics every single time, it would start to really feel like treading water. I definitely get that.
Yeah, that's very true. And sometimes we find different guests who would care about something we've already covered. So
yeah, but even if you have the same topic, though, if you have different guests or panel members, they're going to say different things, so it's kind of like a new topic anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so Stephen, not my brother. You probably have a few choices here as well.
Oh, I could list a billion things. Let's see. I would have mentioned the Wind Waker Ocean theme. That's a great one. I really love, we'll go back a little bit into history, because I love this series and nobody talks about it enough. Phantasy Star, the original turn-based RPG series. Some of the world map themes from that, the Motavia theme from Phantasy Star 2, that doot, 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 doot. Like, it's really simple and sort of pleasant. That always reminds me of being a kid walking around that place. And then, of course, all of the world map themes from Phantasy Star 4. Like, every planet has its own theme. And they're all great. Everything in Chrono Cross is amazing, but the two world map themes, Homeworld and Another World, are both really great. Those sort of capture everything I love about Yasunori Mitsuda's style. The sort of sense of not mysticism, but mystery, but also this sort of acoustic, sort of Homeworld sort of thing. I don't know. I really like it.
Yeah, that's nice.
Then there's the world map theme from Lost Odyssey. Lost Odyssey is a game I love for reasons that aren't just the game itself. The short stories are really great. And the world map theme in that is sort of your quintessential New Age Nobuo Uematsu, where it's like this sort of peaceful RPG sounding track, and then it turns into a rock track that's really adventurous. It's excellent.
Man, I've been wanting to play that game for a very long time, but I just can't quite seem to pull the trigger on it with games like Bravely Default I still haven't finished.
Yeah, it's long, and it's a little bit slow paced. The battles can take a while. It is a great game, though. I wouldn't say it's the best game ever, but it's a game that I put on my list of my favorites because of those short stories and how well they characterize the main characters. The main character he's an immortal. He can't die. He's been alive for, untold thousands of years. And so the short stories are sort of him recalling things from his past that color how he reacts to events in the game that's happening at the moment.
That's really neat.
I've heard really good things about the story in that game. I've just always wondered, if it's worth getting through a JRPG for it.
Well, the overarching plot gets kind of,
it's tropey.
Yeah, it's kind of hammy, near the end, but the short stories add so much depth to his character, and it's really unlike any other RPG out there, at least JRPG, in terms of characterization, so I really, really enjoyed it about that game. I recommend it.
Neat.
Yeah, I would agree.
Plus, battles are pretty fun. It's got that ring system.
I've heard of the ring system.
Yeah.
Don't know what it is. Is it like when you lose all your rings and get hit, you die?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and then you get 100 to get into life?
Hey, speaking of that, why has no one brought up Sonic Lost Chronicles? That had some excellent Overworld.
Oh my gosh. No.
Sonic Chronicles Dark Brotherhood is actually a game that we joked about doing a most terrible, awful music for April Fools. But it turns out it's hard to get excited about that enough to want to record an episode dedicated to it. Sonic Chronicles is a game that I dislike for many reasons, not least of which is the fact that BioWare applied so little effort to that it just made me very angry with them.
It's like not even BioWare will take Sonic seriously. It's like, great!
They made 55% of the game, and then we're like, it's done, put it out.
Yeah.
And the music is just very... For a game whose battle system is inspired by Elite Beat Agents, you really should have had a better... and with such a rich musical history of the Sonic series, they could have easily contacted Hideki Naganuma to make that game have an amazing soundtrack.
I was going to say that exact thing.
That would have been genius.
And it would have fit with the pace of that game's combat, but what's in there now is just this sort of... And that'll actually get into our next question. I don't want to jump into it too soon, but it's real flubbed opportunity.
100% agreed. I just couldn't get through that game, and that's coming from someone who beats almost every Sonic game and really likes BioWare, so...
Alright, you got anything else on your list, Steven, not my brother?
I could go on forever, but I'll let Derek take a few, because I'm sure he'll cover ones that I'm not thinking of.
Awesome. Go ahead, Derek.
So, I think Steven has probably mentioned it before, but I really think the Wild Arms games do exploration incredibly well.
Ah, yes.
Mostly because Filgaia is just so huge and desolate and evocative. You always have that. It's usually had. Wow, I can't talk today. It usually has that trademark whistle, typically like some kind of wind blowing in the background sound effect or something.
Yeah.
So I just think they do a perfect job of that. Like, oh, it's a dusty Wild West theme adventure. You don't know what's farther out in the distance than what you can see right now. So I think that's cool. I really like Terranigma's map themes. I didn't play Terranigma until maybe like 2 years ago, since it came out in Europe but never in the US. I finally got a hold of it and I played it. It's not my favorite of the quintet games like Illusion of Gaia and Soul Blazer, but I think it has a really, really cool atmosphere in general, and the underworld especially, like where you first start the game, is really cool. There's like lava lakes everywhere, and it has this weird blur effect as you walk around. Very
Really
otherworldly,
mysterious song.
kind of surreal, yeah. Other than that, Odin Sphere. I love Odin Sphere's overworld theme. It's more of like a point and click on your destination kind of overworld, but
Yeah.
Like a world map.
but that song is so good, I don't care.
The world maps can definitely count because they often try to evoke the same sort of thing.
Yeah, and then as Steven already mentioned, Chrono Trigger and Cross are really good. And pretty much everything from either of those games in terms of world map themes. And Suikoden, I think, always does really good world map themes, especially 1, 2, and 5. We do not speak of 4. And I enjoy 3 a lot as well, but I don't think it has the very best overworld themes. I like the march.
Right.
I just enjoy like building up your characters and bases and stuff, and it feels very like whimsical military. I don't really know how to explain it, but
Shining Forcey.
yeah, kind of Shining Forcey, sure. So those are some of my faves.
Oh, you want to know a series that does good whimsical military? I would point to
Valkyria?
Fire Emblem. I think that they nail that a lot of the time. Well, it feels really a lot about battling with your comrades, but also, hey, we're having a good time out here with war and death and all.
Yeah. Fire Emblem, like the base themes in Fire Emblem often get that down really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah, absolutely. An interesting overworld theme that is really different from most we've mentioned here so far is Gruntilda's Lair.
From Banjo-Kazooie?
Yeah.
Oh, from Banjo-Kazooie.
I'm not 100% sure I'd classify that as a role-playing game. But
No,
that's a
but
great example.
we never limited this to role-playing games.
Right. That's
I guess-
just our area of expertise.
Man, I guess you're right.
Yeah.
It's just when I think of Overworld, I almost always go to RPGs.
Well, that's why we said exploration theme. Exactly.
Yeah, you're right. I've just been mentally saying RPG.
I mean, technically, you could call any Banjo-Kazooie level theme an exploration theme because the game is nothing but exploration.
Right, but in your heart of hearts, you know those are level themes.
So I'm just doing this as a roundabout way to say Rusty Bucket Bay is so great. So
Yeah.
I love that song. I need to make that song my ringtone.
That's a
But
great
that's
idea.
too short. Yeah,
Just start with the whistle right off the bat.
exactly. So thank you, Grant Kirkhope. That I pretty much have to say that every episode. Alrighty then.
Contract.
What? Oh yeah, it's part of our contract. We're sponsored by Grant Kirkhope.
Oh, I wish we were.
Oh,
Can we make that happen?
Yes.
Do musicians sponsor podcasts?
I don't know,
It's like
but I
conflict
bet
of
he'd do
interest or something. All right. Question number 4. What are some lackluster exploration themes, and why don't they work? Suikoden 4.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I said we don't speak of 4.
Well, we should, because we're a podcast.
Yes, we are now. Fine.
So what about it doesn't work? I've never heard this song before.
Well, I'll let you field it since you brought it up. Is that right?
Wait, me?
Who
Okay.
brought it up, Brian?
I brought it up, but I haven't heard the song. I just remember you saying it was bad, so I was curious what reasons for that were.
Oh, okay. I thought you were agreeing with me.
No. I just heard you say it was a bad Overworld song, so I was curious if that fit into the song.
It's just a bad overworld. That's the problem.
Oh, okay.
Have you played Suikoden 4? No? You said you haven't?
I have not, no.
Basically, in all the games, one of the main things that you do is you there's a cast of 108 characters, the 108 Stars of Destiny, and they're people that you recruit from all over the world for different things around your home base. Like some people are cooks, some people are vendors, most fight with you. But in Suikoden 4, that task is made incredibly difficult and obnoxious because you're sailing around this gigantic ocean. I don't remember if it came out after Wind Waker.
I was about to say, this sounds familiar.
Yeah, but it's incredibly slow. your boat sails at a ridiculously slow pace, and the random encounter rate is out of this world high. So I don't really remember anything in particular about the actual theme that plays.
Okay, gotcha.
It was probably not good. I mean, like, if I don't remember anything about it, it wasn't memorable enough to help get that horrible taste out of my mouth.
Gotcha.
So,
all right.
But, yeah.
So Stephen, my brother, did you have any like memorably bad overworld themes, lackluster, and please don't choose the one I did?
All right. I'm going to confoundingly whirl around in my tracks and
choose Ocarina of Time.
No, I'm going to target our friend Jeremy Soule. And take him down a peg for my favorite video game soundtrack of all time, Morrowind.
What?
Yes, and I have a reason for this, I think that's because Morrowind was built without any dynamic functions whatsoever.
Oh,
for the music.
That's a good point.
They would literally loop the entire soundtrack, piece by piece, including the theme song, without warning. So you could be in a dank dungeon, murdering skooma thieves or whatever is in Morrowind, and the theme song could start playing, or Peaceful Waters could start.
That's
playing.
An excellent point. Peaceful Waters would play anywhere in the game unless you're in combat. Yeah. Any of the songs would. If you're in a building, if you're in the east side of the world, if you're in the west side of the world, if you're in a dungeon, if you're, I don't know, fighting the final boss, probably not there. But Skyrim really got that down.
Yes.
Skyrim even got to the point where they would transition ambient sound, kind of ambient music with actual music with ambient sounds and just merge them throughout the world. They did a really good job there.
And if you listen to the 30-minute ambient track that comes with the soundtrack, I personally find it highly listenable. I mean, it
it's
doesn't
really
have
good.
A single tune, but man, it'll relax the heck out of you.
That's an interesting turn of phrase.
So even though go ahead.
We the host of our other podcast, Random Encounter, Rob Steinman, he's a hilarious. He's the hilarious third part to Derek and I's little machine. He actually made a great point that the music in those games is really excellent for reading. And yes. I think, again, that goes back to what I was saying, where I think, although I would agree with you that I think Skyrim and Oblivion did a better job sort of integrating music, but all of the music in those games is very soothing, and it allows you to focus on your surroundings, but not feel like the soundscape is empty, without putting itself in the forefront. Like, when you're fighting a boss in Persona 3, the music is like in your face, and it's amazing. But
when you're walking around your apartment in Persona 3, the music is the forefront.
Exactly. And so that's not the purview of the Elder Scrolls games. So I think the choice they've made to do that is good, even if it's not maybe as easily memorable to listen to.
I agree for sure. Something I would be interested to see them start to do more, and they did this with a couple town themes in like Skyrim, is like regional music for the overworld. So if you're in
really love to hear that.
One type of environment, it would be different music than if you're in a different part of the environment, which is something Elder Scrolls hasn't really touched upon, partially because they tend to focus on such small areas that the culture kind of, whatever music style they go for kind of matches.
Like
the whole
Skyrim's whole soundtrack was based around the Nord and Orc cultures.
But I still think like the deeper mountains could sound different than the coast.
Yeah. That would be another level.
You might actually like to listen to the Elder Scrolls Online soundtrack if you haven't yet. It's not Jeremy Soule. He did just the opening theme, which is sort of a fusion of the Morrowind, Skyrim, and Oblivion themes.
Cool.
But this gentleman named Brad Derrick and then Rick Schaefer did the soundtrack to Elder Scrolls Online. And it's interesting because there are 3 different parts of Tamriel visualized in that game. And they did sort of work a little bit ethnically with each area. It's not hugely noticeable, I think.
It's not like World of Warcraft.
Yeah, it's not nearly as exactly. It's not nearly as noticeable as that, but it is a little more prevalent than you might see in the other 3. The other 3 more recent entries.
Yeah, I'd definitely check that out. So Derek, did you have any examples for this? Lackluster?
I thought about it a lot, and I had a hard time really coming up with anything. There are probably some out there that I really don't like, but I've erased them from my memory.
Exactly.
I don't like
or didn't notice them. Yeah.
Right. But one that just sticks out to me as kind of bland are a lot of actually the Atelier games. I really like the series. I think they're quaint and relaxing, and sometimes the humor is kind of hit or miss. But I enjoyed the games a lot. They're good, relaxing. I call them the relaxation RPGs, aside from like Harvest Moon. But
I love Harvest Moon.
yeah, but the world map themes are usually pretty samey. Gust Sound Team, and it used to be Ken Nakagawa and I think Daisuke Achiwa, and I don't know if they've been doing all of them recently, but they use like the same instrument set in most games, so there's always the same kind of soundscape happening on almost all of the world map themes, and they all blend together for me. They just all have they have like a flute or some kind of wind instrument and almost the same progression, and I just kind of get tired of them and or forget about them. So I think it's just the lack of variety in that case that makes them not so great.
Yeah, I definitely get that.
Yep, for sure. So, Steven, not my brother, what do you have for this?
The one I'd immediately go to is the Mansion Basement theme for Resident Evil, the Director's Cut.
Okay, wait a minute. You can't just throw that at me out of nowhere.
I promised Derek he would like mine.
That's my favorite bad song of all time.
Derek and I just adore that song for how terrible it is.
I've never heard
honestly,
this. Say
you know
what it
what?
is again?
It's the Mansion Basement theme from the Director's Cut of the original Resident Evil, not the original version, but the DualShock version, basically.
Gotcha.
And it's
Steven, you should try to demonstrate it.
it's sort of read the comments, but just the opening is just and then it's just sort of like it's sound vomit.
Yeah, it's like this out of tune horn, like this brass that's just like.
I am listening to this. This is the worst song I think I've ever heard in a game.
So what's a shame is that the Mansion, the reason I would say it's lackluster and why it doesn't work, because it's undoubtedly memorable. I know that song very well, but it does not suit exploration in Resident Evil, especially considering what it replaced, which was a very sort of more atmospheric track. That was a good exploration theme.
Wow.
Arguably, though, this one's more memorable, so I suppose it has that going for it.
Why do you think they did this?
Well, recently it came out that the musician who did, was it the one who did the director's cut, Derek, that ended up being a fraud? Yeah, so the guy basically came out that he had been, like, feigning deafness or blindness.
I remember that.
And it turned out that he had plagiarized most of the music, so I really have no idea what the story with the sound is.
And why would this is like the one time he tried to write something original. He's like, whoa.
That's why he plagiarized, because that was his one original creation.
His one contribution to music was that, and he was like, you know what, I feel like the world is better off without me. Without my contribution.
I'm just going to stick this in the basement,
actually,
hope no one finds it.
I don't want to get this guy in deeper trouble, but this song was plagiarized as well. I'm pretty sure when I had a Yamaha keyboard when I was about 7 years old, I composed this.
Yeah.
I put it on the brass trumpets, and this sounds exactly the same.
You just mashed.
Man, this is getting really upsetting.
Yep.
It's
like
a thing of beauty.
That says, that sound when you tell a joke and nobody laughs. Oh, that is good. That is rich. That is a good choice, Stephen. Yeah.
Thank you. I owe it all to Derek. Derek introduced me to that song. Make sure you read the comments if you looked it up on YouTube, too, because they're worth a great laugh.
Yes, they are.
All right. So I had one for this. Only one, because I agree. It's kind of a hard question. And that, for me, it is not itself a bad song, but Termina Fields from Majora's Mask, I feel, is kind of a missed opportunity. Because it, to me, kind of comes off as a little bit distorted, little bit disturbing version of the Zelda theme, but how it's played just doesn't feel particularly striking. It just feels like hear that melody again, except not played particularly well. I think maybe if they'd changed the Ocarina Field song instead, it would have felt more like a Mirror of the World, but as is, it just never felt very inspired to me compared to other Zelda overworlds. Granted, the overworld itself was kind of bad too.
Yeah, the overworld...
It's just like it's like a cross with 4 directions.
Yeah, it's just a circle, exactly.
I mean, well, there was some really haunting, excellent music in that game.
Yeah.
And the town was brilliantly designed. But you're right, everything about the overworld was just kind of there. Like, it was an afterthought.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, let's, I don't know, put some rocks. I guess there are some holes in the ground. And let's do the Zelda song with
a few trumpets. Yeah.
Okay. I agree. I never really liked that song.
Especially when you consider how amazing most Zelda overworld music is.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
So that was mine.
I feel like all of Majora's Mask could have easily turned out like that.
Just feeling wrong.
Yeah, just like a strange, slightly twisted rehash of an excellent game.
Mm-hmm.
But that
it was a good remix overworld theme of the Zelda theme was Link's Awakening.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, it was. That's one of my favorites, actually.
Yeah, that's easily one of my favorite. That and Minish Cap.
Oh, yep. Minish Cap was pretty cool, too.
Yeah, totally agree with that.
Neat. All right. Question number 5, and this is the question we've been trying to answer through half this podcast and having to step away from. How do Eastern and Western games approach exploration themes differently?
That's a conversation we've actually had at length.
Yeah.
So I feel like we're good to talk about it.
Excellent.
My very simple answer would be that Eastern games tend to be more melody-driven, and Western games tend to be more atmospheric and ambient.
That was exactly my quick answer as well.
Yep. Same for Steven.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm actually writing a probably the most researched piece I've ever written for RPGFan. Sort of, I'm looking at the history of Japanese game music and Western game music, and sort of what traditions they sprung from.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll have to forward it to you guys when I finish it in
Sounds
5
awesome.
million months. But I'm sort of looking at how Japanese music, especially Japanese games early on, the sort of monetization of anime and like different kinds of like drama and stuff in Japan had a tradition of soundtracks being released and sold for money as a way to sort of make additional money off of property, like with manga, then they turn into anime, and then you get the soundtrack. So I think the sort of thesis I went in with was that a lot of Japanese games, when they're being first designed, that's the metric by which a lot of Japanese designers were making their soundtracks was, well, yeah, let's make it like an anime. We want a melody that we can repeat during certain sequences.
Mm-hmm.
And like, to use a more contemporary example, like the show Naruto has a sad theme that plays in the first 50 episodes. And then they have a new sad theme for 50 through 100. Not necessarily those episode numbers, but just in general. And I think that's something you see repeated in a lot of anime where it's like, well, for this series, we need a sad theme that we can play. So it becomes the sad theme. We need the action theme. We need the character has overcome some sort of obstacle and is now having a successful fight theme. So I feel like that tradition was sort of brought into Japanese gaming and has been brought to the future. And now that the technology has sort of evened itself out, you see that a lot more in games where the soundtracks can be very similar in tone to an anime, or to like a television show. Whereas Western games, again, this is sort of just an expansion of what Derek said, but Western games have always sort of pulled from the Hollywood consciousness and like filmic consciousness where, growing up, a lot of Western game designers, they'll cite like the developers of Shadowrun, the composer, Marshall Parker for Super Nintendo. I was looking at a little bit into this because we just played some Shadowrun music, and it's really interesting that it uses the Super Nintendo sound chip to make a kind of sound that's very different from what like a Final Fantasy did on the Super Nintendo. It's still melody driven, but it sounds a lot more like something out of an action scene in a movie from Hollywood than the sort of, a few bars of a melody that you can remember. And so that's sort of how they've evolved differently. And I think that's just why I don't think any conscious decision is made to like, oh, hey, I'm making a Skyrim game or making an Elder Scrolls game, so we need Jeremy Soule and background music. I don't think that's a conscious decision. I think that's just a stylistic decision that's evolved over time. And you're starting to get a lot of really, really cool crossover between the two. Like Brave Wave is a label now that does some music that sort of has a lot of Japanese and a lot of Western musicians together. And then you have like the example I always like to mention is the Scythian Steps album, which is the Sword and Sorcery EP soundtrack by Jim Guthrie, but it's arranged by a lot of Japanese music luminaries. And it's fantastic. And so it's really exciting that you're getting this sort of fusion of the Japanese melody-driven approach to the sort of Hollywood-esque orchestral film score type sounds that we're getting. And so it's long story short, we're in an exciting time for game music. So that's the end of my soapboxing. But yeah.
Well, that was fascinating. And I agree with what you said and learned quite a bit from it as well. And I agree that the crossover both in game design and in music has been really interesting to witness as those two kind of camps merge into one. Or at least start to cross over more.
Something like Dragon's Dogma. That's a Japanese RPG in the strictest sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Japanese developer making an RPG. But because it's going for sort of that Western style, closer to something like Elder Scrolls. The music took a completely different shift from the majority of Japanese games. You know, you have I don't know if it's Inon Zero, I always forget how to pronounce his name. He's suddenly on board. It has a very down-to-earth, solid, dramatic sound to it. Unless, of course, you count the title theme by BC. But otherwise, it's interesting to see the different cultures dabbling in different genres than they're used to.
So, taking this and applying it to specifically exploration themes, like, where do you think this manifests itself in the exploration themes? Like, for me, I think Western games try to more of enhance the mystery or specific atmosphere of the location you're in. Kind of trying to be the background well.
Yeah.
Japanese themes really try to get you excited to move forward.
Japanese themes are also much more ready to embrace modern instruments, right?
Yeah.
And that goes right into the melody. And they're both trying to go for emotion.
Yeah, emotion for both, but one feels more... Well, again, you don't get a lot of Western exploration themes, I feel, that are trying to get that kind of rise of excitement and adventure. They're more of trying to give you kind of either tranquility in the Elder Scrolls case, or mystery, or world building.
You're doing very different things when you're exploring in these games. Japanese RPG, you're often running at full speed, and sometimes crashing into random encounters, which suddenly it's a battle, and then you're back to, you know, dashing around and maybe interacting with a couple of things, but you're basically there to run from point A to point B and fight.
I feel like Western games are often like, they don't have a world map as much. You're more of walking through an actual location. So things like Elder Scrolls and Anarchy Online and World of Warcraft are like trying to accentuate the beauty or the atmosphere or the mystery of the specific place you're walking through, or the specific type of world you're in, and trying to kind of get you to look at that world.
Yeah, I think maybe one major difference is that Western RPGs, like you said, they try to connect you more with the world, and I think that just goes back to like the focus on characters. Not necessarily that Western RPGs aren't character focused ever, but a lot of the times you get like recurring motifs. Either you'll get like a character theme, so maybe you're exploring a world map as a particular character that's not like necessarily the main protagonist. And so for that part of the game, you'll have some kind of arrangement of that character's theme. So I think they try to hook you with the melodies and to sort of connect you more into maybe like the narrative or the characters than the actual atmosphere or like the environment around you.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That's an excellent point, because like in a Western RPG, you're kind of creating your own character to explore a world. I'm sorry for interrupting you. I was just saying, but in an Eastern RPG, they're more of, there is an existing character narrative they want to tell you about and want you to explore more than they want you to explore the world.
Very true. Yeah, I guess what I was going to say is purely support to that. I think of Elder Scrolls, first person, I see streams and mountains and ogres and a very detailed landscape. I play Tales of Vesperia, let's say, and I see very bright but, you know, sort of basically modeled rolling hills and giant portraits of my awesome wacky characters, and you know it's a totally different experience.
That actually makes me think it would be really cool if a Western RPG or an MMO would have like character motifs and themes for your character depending on what like type of character you made. Like if you had a mage, you would get kind of your character theme would be in the score, but it would be kind of magical and focused on a mage. But if you're a warrior, it'd be more focused on that.
That would be cool. I feel like that's something that should exist if it doesn't already. Like, I like that idea a lot, though.
Yeah, the closest I can think of is like in World of Warcraft, when you choose a race, you know, you start in an area that has music like your race, but that's slightly different.
I was gonna say, like, Dragon Age, I guess. You get the different part of the narrative in the beginning, but I'm not sure specifically like if the music is unique to those opening sequences, you know, but
not so much. And it'd be cool if the music followed you through the rest of the game, like not just for where you start, but where you go. Your character still has this theme song that like and motifs that match what the type of character you're making. So maybe it could get darker or lighter if you are morally bad or good, that sort of thing. So you're
saying like it would be the same tune, but like different instrumentation for like
it could be
when your character does something dramatic or heroic or evil or something.
Mm-hmm. Well, just like how JRPGs have their own motifs and themes for certain characters, like if you could apply that as part of the customization process, just like your visuals and your voice and everything.
That would be cool. Yeah, I love it when developers do anything close to that, so I would be way into that.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, cool. We'll move on here since this is already kind of a long podcast. To question number 6. How can combat music add to, rather than subtract from, exploration music?
So, yeah, go ahead, Steven.
So I don't really have an answer, more just an example. So the Kingdom Hearts series is another series I adore, and again, Yoko Shimomura, we seeing the pattern. What that series does is they have a theme for every world, and oftentimes if it's a Disney world, it's sort of culled from the soundtrack from the film. Like if you look at the Pirates of the Caribbean world in Kingdom Hearts 2, it's the He's a Pirate song from Pirates of the Caribbean. Mm-hmm. And then the battle theme is... So it's usually this sort of ambient track that captures the essence. It's very melody driven. That's another one of those really interesting... A lot of the work in that is Shimomura arranging tracks by Western composers that did the original soundtracks. So that's another one of those interesting sort of conflations of the two styles. And then the battle themes are just sort of higher energy versions of those melodies that dynamically flow from, like, when Heartless show up for you to fight, the song sort of transitions into the combat version. And that's really cool because it keeps you really, really grounded and you know what worlds you're in. That's a big part of the Kingdom Hearts series. More recently, they've sort of flubbed that a bit, especially with the 3DS one, in capturing that. But one of the strengths of many of the games in the series is sort of capturing the world you're in every facet, visually, in terms of the tone of it, and especially the music. So in that case, I think the combat music being tied thematically and melodically to the exploration music makes it very cohesive and makes both of them stronger as a result.
Well, thanks a lot, because you pretty much said exactly what I was thinking, which was just, it's cool when the combat music ties into the exploration music, like either...
This is why we roll together, Derek.
It is why we roll together. We are some kind of music-loving, RPG-playing Voltron of sorts.
Two-headed Hydra of RPG music.
Yeah, and if we throw Rob in there, we'll definitely be a Hydra.
There you go.
But yeah, it's pretty much just like if a theme has maybe like the same central melody but different instrumentation, that's cool, or just a different tempo or different dynamic to it. So yeah.
Right. Yeah, it really beats like the Morrowind idea of a rat comes up, so let's stop your music, and when you kill the rat, restart a different track. Yeah. That's not so great.
No, it's entirely inelegant, and probably the biggest hurdle that these sorts of games have to surpass.
Or, JRPGs where it's just like, okay, different song. And
I think that reminds me of Pokemon. And I think that's one of the most successful RPGs to do that, because no matter what song is playing, they have that descending torrent of notes. So it's like suddenly, whoa, you're falling into the battle, and then you're in the battle, and then you're back.
Instead of just like, music stop, sound effect, start a battle. That's a good point.
Yeah, it's like the music sounds like a transition. It's so exciting, you just want to leave whatever you're doing anyway to fight this, Raichu that came out of the woods.
That's
Do those hang out in the woods?
I don't know.
I thought they were more of a field.
I don't know. I'm not
Pokemon.
up my Pokemon lore.
No, I just mean, I feel like you need a Thunderstone for that. Otherwise, just get Pikachu.
What if it was someone who evolved the Pikachu with a Thunderstone and left the Raichu escaped into the woods?
That's some deep freakiness. Some serious issues going on. Well, the dark side of Pokemon.
Who would leave a Raichu in the woods? That's the question.
Not me. I like Raichus.
I would.
What?
Why would you do that?
You would.
Because he's not Charizard.
All right, I would leave a Pichu in the woods. I'm not going to lie about that.
Pichu, yeah. Who wouldn't?
But, no, I like Raichu.
Yeah, maybe Pichu.
I could do that.
Pichu killed... Pichu's inclusion in Super Smash Bros. Killed him for everyone, because no one wants to play him in that game. So.
Yep.
Poor guy.
True.
Yes, that's...
Who wants to play a character who hurts themselves? It's just ridiculous. Alright. So, any other examples of combat music adding to exploration?
Sometimes I wonder if people should be so intent on making the battle music so drastically different from the exploration music. I know I just gave the example of Pokemon being a positive, but sometimes it feels like you're really digging the zone you're in. And then suddenly the music is the generic combat. And it's kind of what Stephen was saying with Kingdom Hearts. They stick to that theme.
Mm-hmm. I mean, certain games will have combat themes for the area you're in.
Right.
Also, a lot of MMOs just don't do that. Like, the music will not change when you start fighting things.
Yeah. I can name one that does!
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and then actually, he's talking obviously about Final Fantasy XIV because why would we talk about anything else? But
also 11.
Sure. But in Final Fantasy XIV, they do that where they have a different theme, like different instrumentation for each region of the world. So it's actually the same battle melody, but depending on where you are, you have a different instrument.
That's a good way of handling it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it does a really good job.
And that was actually a very creative way to make that very traditional MMO feel like an authentic JRPG.
Yeah.
Changing to the very energetic battle theme. Very cool idea.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's one of the great examples of going for a specific style without hampering the gameplay mechanics they wanted to get across.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, that's really neat.
Alrighty, so going on to question number 7. If you could change one exploration theme, why and how would you do that?
Well, Brian, you know what?
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say
Termina Fields,
and I was going to say the solution would have been to make it a dark and twisted version of Hyrule Fields from Ocarina of Time.
And that's my answer here, written down like
and
that.
Okay.
This is why we roll together.
Do you know
it cuts down on podcast length.
Do you know how many songs there are in the world, Brian? How many songs we could have chosen independently of one another?
Yep. There are quite a few.
And we chose the exact same.
Look at us here. All right. Now we have to brainstorm different idea.
Oh,
Go.
no. Okay.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Right. I got this.
I would change Wind Waker's to be played with an accordion. Solo.
Bam! I would take Twilight Princesses and give it a full orchestra.
All right.
Because that was the
something
only
else we've already discussed. But
that
yeah.
stopped it from being perfect.
That's you just saying, I want to make a good song better.
Yeah, that's fair. That's in here.
Yeah, that's in the terms and conditions, Derek.
All right.
I would take the original Zelda theme and make it the Mario theme.
Oh, jeez. Okay, Derek, do you have anything to bring to this table?
Not. This was the hardest question for me. I couldn't really.
It is hard.
I talked about Suikoden earlier, and they do have several different map themes. I mean, at least for the first two, I'm pretty sure there's more than one. There's at least 2 map themes for each one. But I would just say, in line kind of with the dynamic thing, I guess I really like dynamic music, would be having maybe like it build up, like having a new layer every time you hit a milestone, either in the story or in terms of recruiting characters. Like, when you have 30 people at your home base, like maybe they'll add a new instrument to it, that kind of thing. But I can't really think of any other specific games.
Yeah,
or my other general example was, again, not a specific game, but I think it would be cool if there was sort of a main melody. So pick your favorite RPG, any RPG, it's fine. It doesn't have to be an RPG, I guess, but for this example, pick an RPG and then have the same melody for the world map theme, but change the instrument that's leading it depending on which character is like your party leader. So I think that kind of thing would be cool.
Yeah,
so
that would be awesome, actually.
Yeah, like Tales of Vesperia, so you'd get like Yuri's be, I don't know why Vesperia's on my mind. What would Yuri's be? Like something cool, like maybe guitar.
Lots of bass. There's gotta be lots of bass for Yuri.
Yeah. And, I wanted to call him Koromaru. Repeats would just be like dog woofs or something. I don't know. But that kind of thing.
That's a really cool idea, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Alright, what about you, Stephen, not my brother?
So, we'll go back to, I generated this one in real time. I had no idea what I was going to say before we started. Now that we've talked about Sonic Chronicles, The Dark Brotherhood, I would change all of the exploration themes to What You Need from Sonic Rush.
Yeah! Because that is what you need.
Because it is yes, that. You stole my awesome joke. That's okay.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Because you knew where I was going with it. In general, I've actually found, like, thinking about this today, I've sort of been listening to the Sonic Rush soundtrack as we've been doing this just because I wanted to prepare for this question. And the Sonic Rush soundtrack, if you just replaced all of the terrible exploration themes in Sonic Chronicles with Sonic Rush songs and Sonic Rush adventure songs, you'd have a really great soundtrack. But that's sort of Like, they fit the tone of the Sonic world way better than I would have ever expected it. Like, as a kid, listening to Sonic, the kinds of styles of music they went with in the Sonic series, to look cool in the 90s, it's remarkable how well the very different style of Naganuma fits with it. And actually, you could change all the battle themes to the boss themes in Sonic Rush, too, because Wrapped in Black is amazing.
Yeah, exactly what I was thinking. Okay, that's good. That's very good. Now, if we could just change all of the gameplay to any other game, I think we'd be set.
Actually, we could just change it to, let's just change it to Mario and Luigi, and then you have the game they were trying to rip off anyway, poorly.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I think we solved it. Man,
I'm a little bit bitter about Sonic Chronicles, in case nobody's noticed.
No, I didn't notice. I thought you were you gave it a 9, right?
I would be bitter about it if I could consistently remember that it existed. But,
I forget it exists too. I actually didn't play it, but
that's a good point. I'm actually surprised a Paper Mario game or a Mario and Luigi game didn't come up through this. Because I bet those have pretty good sounds.
That's composed by Yoko Shimomura, I might add.
How many times can you say that in one episode?
Quite a few, actually.
She's good at what she does. Yeah, you'd be surprised. Have you met Steven? I guess you have now. This Steven. Yeah. Steven M.
Steven M. All right.
Have you ever met your brother?
No, actually. Just talk on Skype all the time.
Brian, Steven, Brian.
Oh, good to meet you. Hey, Steven.
Man, how did we think?
Hey, did you know we have the last name? That's name. That's crazy.
What? I want to hang out with the guy who has the same first name. He likes to talk about Sonic Rush.
Well, your wish has been granted.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
Okay, here I've got one off the top of my head since our other one didn't count.
Okay.
How about the Star Fox Adventures Field theme?
Mm-hmm. Wait,
what? Did they?
Why are we talking about Star Fox Adventures?
Because it had an Overworld theme.
It did.
It also exists. Maybe you forgot about that.
Yeah, I did.
But I actually really like what that song is. But what if they were able to incorporate some very subtle, I would say some background effects from Venom? So you have this very, but then change that Venom theme to something very innocent, like with a mandolin or something. And so you don't realize it, but Andros is watching you the whole time from space. And even though you don't know he's the secret final boss of the game, if you'd been listening closely, that theme would have been echoing the whole time.
That is too scary for me to say that's a good idea.
Okay.
I may have childhood trauma about Andros that I don't want to get into right now.
Okay.
That guy's a freak.
He is kind of freaky, with eyeballs in his brain pop out.
Yeah.
Right.
That's troubling to a child.
A little disturbing.
Yeah.
I was there. I witnessed it. It gave Brian nightmares for years.
Oh.
Literally, I think he had nightmares about it.
Did you have to check behind the shower curtain every time you went into the bathroom in case Andros was hiding behind it?
Yeah, that, and every time I saw anyone's face, I freaked out. So that was a problem.
That's incredibly problematic.
Yeah, exactly. I was really bad at giving anyone eye contact after that, so that never helped. Yeah. All right, well, moving on to question 8. This is a really exciting one because we all get to plug what we're doing.
Hooray!
It's the end of the podcast. So question 8 is, what have you been working on?
Let's let our guests tackle this first.
No, I want to be rude.
No,
we're gonna let them do that.
Be polite.
All right, fine. Okay, guests. Derek, what have you been working on?
Well, there's always a lot of reviews that I'm working on. Games I'm playing for review, basically. Nothing in particular that's incredibly exciting that I could mention. I'm playing Steins Gate, which is out. I think you said you don't watch a lot of anime, but Steins Gate was a really popular. I actually think the game came first, but it's a visual novel, like a future tech kind of visual novel.
Okay.
Playing that for review right now. As always, we are working on new random encounter and rhythm encounter episodes. Like I said, we have a sci-fi episode that's coming up shortly, so that should be out probably within the next week. It's already been recorded.
Are you guys gonna have the forest theme from Phantasy Star Online?
I have been barred from including much more Phantasy Star music since I got 2 entire episodes.
Oh man.
What about the Pioneer 2? Was that discussed in any of them?
Oh yeah, that was in our very first episode.
Oh good.
Good. We not that I would want to include more. I always love to, but in the interest of sort of having a good variety of music, we try not to pick I love Chrono Cross to death, but we joke about me wanting to just play Chrono Cross music the whole time. But, we try to aim for a lot of variety when we can, especially in cases where there's a game that's less known, because we sort of have an advantageous viewpoint at RPGFan because we see a lot of niche games that maybe don't necessarily get noticed. And like, especially when I was first writing for the site, I sort of took for granted that, like, not everyone follows RPG news as closely as many of us do, which is why we're writing for RPGFan. So we like to take the opportunity when we can to play music from a game that somebody might not remember, or, like playing, Shadowrun Super Nintendo, or playing, Saga Frontier. Those don't get mentioned as often these days as, your Final Fantasies and that sort of thing.
So what you're saying is that we're professional hipsters.
Basically.
Yeah.
We liked it before it was cool.
Yeah.
We made it cool.
Yes, we did. And also, just another cool thing that we have coming up is we do have an interview with a notable composer on the scene right now. We are going to be interviewing Keiichi Okabe, who did the soundtrack for Nier and Drakengard 3. So it's a pretty big deal for us. We're both really big fans. Yeah, so we have
Nier
that
is a very good soundtrack.
Yeah, in
yes,
fact, I'm shocked we made it through this entire podcast without saying the words Nier.
Yes. That's actually another example of dynamic music, because it has like the Song of the Ancients that Devila sings. So when you get near her lyrics come in. I really like that. It's not exploration, but still cool.
I've only heard the soundtrack. I haven't played the game, so I don't know how it's incorporated into the actual game. That's cool.
It's pretty cool.
All right.
Steven, what about you?
Well, if I was being really honest, what am I working on right now? Persona 3. I just finished my last day of class for grad school, and I'm working on my final work, and I have the summer to work on my thesis, but I've been taking a few days to just finally clear this one up, because I've tried to beat it 8 or 9 times and just never got it.
So you're taking a break from school to play a game about school.
Yep.
Kind of, yeah. And I feel ashamed because I feel like I'm letting Derek down by having not finished it, because Derek got me into Persona 4 when it's one of the best games ever made. Mm-hmm. And 3 I can clearly see the appeal of as well, now that I'm quite deep into it. But what the question's actually asking, I'm working on that article I mentioned. It's probably a few months out, because I want to do some research and interview a few people. It's kind of I don't want to call it a resume piece. I hate the idea of that, but it's sort of a topic that I think is really interesting, that people sort of talk about a lot. And you hear it in all kinds of circles about game music, or just game podcasts. People are like, oh yeah, Japanese music is like this and Western music is like that. So, but I don't really feel like there's been any articulation historically with like backed up facts and stuff. So I'm sort of taking my pretentious grad student mentality to a topic I like a whole lot more than Japanese literature.
Yeah, that's actually an excellent point, is people can, all of this stuff is just casual impressions, but it's nice to have like real research done on topics that mostly are just discussed.
Yeah, and not that there's no merit to discussion, but it's nice to have a written piece that somebody can reference, and A, and B, if someone, ever says, hey, what are your interests in the music of the games industry? I can be like, well, this.
That's
and
great.
Then, of course, Derek and I are always working on the music podcast and the regular podcast, and I am guest writing for Game Music Online, which until very recently was Square Enix Music Online. Now that I have free time. There's a lot of stuff. I like RPG music is certainly nearest and dearest to my heart. That's why Derek and I do the show. But, I wanted to talk about like non-RPG soundtracks a little bit, or stuff that's outside the coverage of RPG-Fan. Like I really love the soundtrack to Infamous Second Son. It's a really experimental, sort of weird, but really cool soundtrack that fits really well. And so Chris Greening at SEMO and Don Kotowski are both awesome dudes that are giving me the chance to write about stuff there. So
that is awesome. Yeah. And you definitely, whenever you finish the Great Grand article of research, send it over to us. Let us know what's going on, because I definitely want to take a look at that, because it's something we specifically have talked about a lot, but we don't know what we're talking about, and I would love to read something more serious on it.
Oh, yeah. I don't want to give you the impression that I know what I'm talking about either. I'm just going to write it all down.
Well, that's fair enough. That's what human beings have to do.
That's a secret to anybody that's never been to graduate school. Nobody knows what they're talking about. They just wrote it down really well.
Ah, yes. If you put footnotes in there, then it means something.
That's what I have learned. I'm sure there's a bunch of academics that will hang me for saying that, but the biggest thing you learn in grad school is how little you know.
Yep. Well, they just want to hang you because they can't let the secret get out.
I would say so.
Awesome. All right, Steven, what have we been working on? I had momentary amnesia.
Well, we're a big fan of this podcast, Train Station at 8, which is what you're listening to right now.
Right.
We have multiple episodes in the works, all of which I'm very excited about right But also just go back to walesorwales.com, which is the network that Train Station 8 lives under. Some changes are going on. We have, like 3 or 4 completely new show ideas that are making their way into the pipeline. They won't all make it through to the end, but, I don't know. Keep a lookout in the future.
Absolutely.
That's pretty much it, though. It's Wales or Wales, and super fun changes coming soon.
Awesome.
Well, thank you all for coming. It was great talking to you.
Of course.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you. We are most honored.
No, we're definitely the honored ones here.
we always like to take an opportunity to talk about music because we do it all the time anyway. So.
Yep.
Yeah, same here. So this worked out pretty well, I think.
I'm always so excited when I find another video game music podcast. I immediately just have to send them a tweet or email saying, "Hey, come on our show, please."
Well, you guys will have to come on ours as well. We'll think of a topic you might like to talk about. Our format's a little bit different. We listen to music and then talk just about the songs. But
Well, yeah, I appreciate the offer, and hopefully we will take you up on that. I would love to do that.
Yeah, that would be rad. I mean, off the top of my head, have you guys ever done an episode on Mario RPG music?
We have not.
Not specifically Mario RPG music.
Interesting, because I don't play a ton of JRPGs, but I've played pretty much all of those and thoroughly enjoyed them in the soundtracks.
That's actually a good idea. There's a lot of variety there, because I was thinking, Mario RPG is just the one, but no, there's like Paper Mario and Mario and Luigi and all those. Yeah, there's actually
the original SNES one. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of them are composed by Yoko Shimura.
Yes.
And on that note, we will close out this episode. Thanks for listening, everyone. Feel free to follow us on Twitter at TrainStation8 or shoot us an email at trainstation8@gmail.com. Most importantly, and we haven't mentioned this much before, you can just check us out on iTunes and subscribe or leave us a review. This is especially helpful for us in growing the show, and though 5 stars would be awesome, be honest. Whatever you think we deserve, give us that review.
But as Derek and I always say, just give 5 stars, because that's what we really want.
That's what we want. But if you want to complain and you want to put it on our reviews, you can do that. Just, don't. Train Station at 8 is a production of Wales or Wales. You can find more shows like this with people like us at walesorwales.com or follow us on Twitter at Wales or Wales. You might notice a theme there. Thanks again for coming, everyone, and say goodbye to the Monkey Porter.